And then Liz has to turn into Serena with the camera locked out because the camera can't move to a split like that. And then they come back and shoot her split screen stuff. See where the lake is? That's behind Bernie. And see, he's walking out. You see how little it is? See what I'm talking about? He's like at the edge now. I could wear my Louis Vuitton. You notice that Liz is sitting there at the lake with her Louis Vuitton, and just he was your classic character actor. Here he's a baron with a German accent. Bruce has booze. Isn't that funny? How does Bruce drink booze? How does the Loch Ness Monster have alcohol in his cave? Serena thinks he's hot, probably because she's a big hoe. That's always been the story, right?
Bewitched, you've got me in your spell.
Let's chat about Bewitched. We're going to Inverness, Scotland, to the Loch Ness Monster. This is stock footage. It's actually very good stock footage. A lot of the stock footage they use is really old and cheeseball. This is actually very good. Loch Ness. In case you don't know, an old Scottish loch means lake. So Loch Ness, Lake Next. I could wear my Louis Vuitton. You notice that Liz is sitting there at the lake with her Louis Vuitton, which is in a lot of episodes. I think like way back, like for years during the run of the show, she's always carrying Louis Vuitton. And I meant to Google it to see when Louis Vuitton started, and I forgot. Maybe can you guys go Google Louis Vuitton and see when it started if you have time? If not, it's okay. Darn it, I wanted to see when Louis Vuitton came into being. All right, so this is the Warner Ranch. That's the pond. She's sitting on fake cheeseball grass. I don't know, can you tell? And there's the Louis Vuitton. Megan Trainor would be happy. So what they've done is that's the Gilligan's Island Lake as well. I'm pretty sure. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I'm pretty sure. And then they just lay down fake grass to cover the LA dirt, because growing grass in LA is not easy and upkeeping it. And then they threw some dead bushes on it, and they're supposed to be in Scotland. The heather on the hill and, the whole Scottish thing. That's supposed to be Darrin's cousin. And they're on their European tour where, unlike when they did the Salem saga, they actually went to Salem for this European stuff where they're supposed to be in Paris and Italy and all these, in Scotland and London, Henry VIII one. They're not leaving Hollywood. So this is Burbank. The back lot, the Warner Ranch is actually in Burbank. Okay, so what else? So this is all about the Loch Ness Monster. I've said it in the past. One of the reasons that I'm doing this for a Bewitched chat, because it's my least favorite episode of all Bewitched, really. Though I never really like when Endora or someone puts a spell on Darrin. That's boring to me because there's not enough magic in it. This is just, I'll explain why I don't like this or these kinds of Bewitched episodes ahead, but it's just me. Okay, so there's a mattress right there he's falling on, lest you think he's falling on the ground. And then they take it away real quick while the camera's still not showing him, and he's just laying there, in case you're wondering how they do that effect. And of course, Dick just laid down when they panned away. So whenever you see someone, oftentimes they'll just do a cut, but when they're falling back like that, every now and then you'll get someone, especially if it's a stunt person, of course, who will literally fall on their back, butt, and all that stuff. Or a lot of times, like I love Hercules and Xena. I know this is weird, but in terms of my favorite shows, I loved Bewitched and Wild Wild West as a kid. I loved Hercules and Xena back when they were on, because I'm weird. But if you watch those floors were all padded. You can actually have a whole set of a floor that's all padding. In other words, it looks like tile. It doesn't have to be carpet. It looks like tile. It looks like dirt, but there's a bunch of padding under it. And then they put dirt on top of it, or there's a bunch of padding under it, and they roll out this big fake floor, kind of like, is it called linoleum, where you could roll it out and it was all over the place? When I did soap operas and stuff, that was, when you see any kind of floor in a studio like that, because they had, in a soap opera, for example, they're constantly putting up sets, taking down sets, putting up sets, taking down sets, putting up sets. Part of the set is the floor they roll out, And it could be tile, it could be wood, it could be anything. And those are just rolled up and rolled out. And a lot of times you can tell. This isn't that, but it's so, see the fake grass by his feet, how it's all bunched up. I don't know. I love looking at that cheeseball stuff because I'm sure that wasn't meant to happen. They probably just shot the fainting scene, dragged the mattress away, air mattress or real mattress, whatever it was, and someone didn't notice that the grass bunched up. That you see that a lot in their backyard, by the way, from the Stevens house in their backyard, because of course that's all fake grass. A lot of times you'll see it bunched up back there. All right, so let's get into the storyline. Here comes, oh, I didn't even read this. Here comes Bernie Copel. Long time, done tons of episodes. Flirpity Flirp, the hippie, the chemist and the druggist, lots. Bernie did a lot of these episodes. He's still around to this day when we're shooting this. And I've actually tried to interview him. I'll tell you that story as well. And there he is. Supposed to be a really easy guy, up for anything. What do you want me to do? I'll do it. If you haven't seen, I don't cross promote my videos for any other reason. Just if you want to know more, in the Bewitched Scandals one on this page, there's nothing really scandalous about it. Again, I don't always title them. There's an interview in there with him where he talks about how difficult Paul Lynde was to work with, how Agnes was nice to him once, said something nice to him once, but he was Bill Asher, the director, liked working with him, so cast him a lot, and just he was your classic character actor. Here he's a baron with a German accent. So he did accents, he did character acting, lots of different things, and he was always up and game for anything. From my understanding, a really good, easy to work with kind of guy, pleasant to be around, which again, when you're shooting a show, you just want those kind of people around, especially a show like this where there were some difficult people. It's nice to have some easy to work with people, and it's like, hey, Bern, oh, you're in this episode, great. That's what they called him, Bern. So obviously Liz liked him, Dick liked them probably, I know Bill liked them. So you just ask these people back over and over again. That's why they did so many things. We talked about the previous Bewitched chat. So Jane, who played Hepzibah, she was Mother Goose. She was Mrs. Washington. She was Queen Victoria. These people, if they're good actors and they're easy to work with and fun and pleasant to be around, of course you're going to ask them back over and over again. That's why and that was real important to Bill. So that's why in this particular show, they did it over and over again. And you know what I forgot to talk about? The one main thing I wanted to talk about in this show, this is the first Bewitched chat where Liz is braless. If you get a chance, it's actually way worse than other episodes. We're in season 8 here. This is right, a couple handfuls of episodes after this, she quits. You can't really tell there, but when they were by the lakeside, she was in kind of a very thin brown, is it called polyester, whatever that material is, blouse, and there was no bra. It was really obvious. And one of the things that I am really interested to know in terms of what you guys think, if you like that, if you think that was a smart move. Like, I think Liz, to me, is just a very sexy, beautiful woman. And I hope that doesn't offend anybody, but she just was. I don't mean to say was like she isn't now, but to me, she really was in the beginning. You've heard me talk about her red pants. If you've watched me at all, I talked about the fact that Elvis Presley was very attracted to her. Everyone, so many people were attracted to her because she was just stunningly beautiful. But I will say, for me, just for me, the braless thing just doesn't work. I get it it's not bad there at all. But some of them, it's just like, no. Go put a bra on her, please. And I'm talking as a director. No, that's, sometimes it just doesn't look good. But maybe there are some of you out there saying, no, it looks hot all the time. I'm actually very curious. Was that a smart move sometimes? I'll just leave it at that. Do you think it was a smart move to do all those seriously, undeniably braless scenes that they did in season 8? Again, I've said it before. Pretty hot. She got the hot pants on under there too. which is fine. I don't mind that at all. Um, but again, they're going up against All in the Family and all these shows that was Charlie's Angels out by now? I'm not sure. But definitely all these sexy shows. It was sex, 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 where, okay, so this is not a split screen. That's a stand-in, for Liz. They do very few split screens in this episode. I'm not sure why, other than they take time, because what that means is Liz has to do the same scene twice. Once as Serena and once as Liz. And this one, they used to do a lot of stand-ins, so like the hair is falling in front of her face. They do a couple split screens because Serena and Samantha have a lot of scenes together in this episode, but they really took the quick way out, probably because they were doing some aggressive shooting on Warner Ranch in that water. I mean, this isn't an expensive episode. They're not spending a lot of money other than the Bruce set, and they had to hire a puppeteer who's actually credited, who plays Bruce, or the Loch Ness Monster, whatever he's called. So it's not an expensive episode, but they're going for it. Okay, so there's a stand, still no split screen. It's obviously not a split screen if another actor like Dick is walking in and she turns a little too far there, and it's very obvious it's not her. Okay, another stand-in, obviously. They're not there. You could not split screen this because the camera's moving. To do a split screen, the camera has to be locked down and none of the set can move because you just do a soft white. So notice right there, they were just shooting Dick and Liz and Serena. Okay, so what's this? All the stupid behind the scenes stuff? I don't know if this is really obvious. They're just shooting through an aquarium. That's just little cheese ball aquarium fish. They're shooting through an aquarium. Liz they specifically put her in a very flowy dress with lots of fans blowing, and then they slow it down. That's all that is. They're shooting through an aquarium and the fans blowing on her dress. It's raised because, they had, not by much, because the puppet has to be pushed up through that little hole. And then eventually she's going to climb through a ladder, and that's not a race set anymore. That's a completely different set. But one of the reasons I don't like this episode is just so cheeseball. Sometimes cheeseball is cute and fun, but for the most part, typically for me, it never is in Bewitched because I'm too attached to it. I like it too much. I like the reality of it. In the early days of Bewitched, it just felt real. It felt like this could be a real thing. For me, just for me, when they do stuff like this, it's like, this campy stuff, but campy like bad. It just loses its magic. No pun intended. That's just me. I haven't even read this yet. Oh my God. All right. So she's all wet in real life, the hair and the dress, probably the end of the day again. And now she's going to change back to dry. So they literally probably shot just that little segment right there at the very end of the day. She's dry, like it's time to go home. It's 5:00. Okay, let's just shoot the wet setup thing. And this was probably shot hours earlier. That's my guess. They shoot her dry, and then they shoot her wet. So they actually shoot it the other way, because it's one thing to have someone wet and have to blow dry their hair, dry their clothes, and have them change. It's another thing to have someone dry and shoot that, because the camera's locked down again. You can't tell. And then wet her. And then after they wet her, and then they probably shot her coming down the ladder wet as well. And then that was a wrap for that day. That's my guess. That's typically how this stuff works. Okay. So Bruce has booze. Isn't that funny? How does Bruce drink booze? How does the Loch Ness Monster have alcohol in his cave? So, of course, that's a whole separate set right there, right? The little paper mache walls, they probably rented that. Again, the way this stuff works, I need to talk about these actors. There's Steve Franken, who was the alien. One of my favorite episodes of all time was when he was Juke, not Duke, but Juke, who was married, partnered, promised to be Samantha's husband when they were just little kids. I've met him, nice guy, really nice guy. He's no longer with us, sadly. Bernie is, though. Have I said that yet? I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget what I said and haven't said. All right, well, I don't think anything big's going to happen here. It is in a second. But now we're establishing in the story that Serena used to date Bruce. and got mad at him and turned him into the Loch Ness Monster. They actually say it was 40 years ago. So the people in this episode, this is called Samantha and the Loch Ness Monster, filmed July 22nd, aired September 29th, 1971, directed by William Asher, written by Michael Morris. Season 8, episode 3. It's the 231st episode they've ever done. They've done 231 episodes at this point. Can you imagine? Who's in it? Bernie Kopel, I mentioned, plays Baron von Fuchs. Steve Franken plays Bruce. And Don Knight plays Darrin's cousin, right? Isn't it Darrin's cousin in the story? Yeah, Darrin's cousin, Robbie. I don't remember him being in anything other than this. So, all right. So now they're kind of reminiscing. I'm going back to the story here, but Bruce is secretly not okay with Serena turning him into a Loch Ness. So now he turns her into a mermaid. So how does something like that happen? And a behind the scenes kind of thing. And notice they didn't pop her into that. She was already in, and they just panned down. And now he's out, and Serena's a mermaid. Here comes the most aggressive scene in the whole episode. Okay, so that's a stand-in. That's not really Liz. And there's Dick Sargent. They're out in the sun. Can you imagine? And in case you don't know, they put tons of sunscreen under your makeup for that. Or was that her? That's Liz. That is Liz. Now, see, that water's just too big to be that lake. I'm thinking they're shooting this somewhere else. Because that pond isn't big enough to shoot this. It doesn't go that deep. You're going to see toward the end, I'll show you how big that pond really is. Now, that's back to the pond, okay? But think about it. Props to Liz. That's a stand-in pulling her in. Liz, they had to harness her. And I don't know, I'm guessing was attached to a speedboat. So she's probably harnessed here, attached to the speedboat, and then the speedboat takes off. So think about it. That wig had to be really attached. There's water going up her nose, in her mouth, and in her eyes, and all that stuff. I mean, imagine, if you've ever gone water skiing or something, being pulled that fast. Now they're back to the Warner Ranch here. They're not on that big lake. So wow. I'm sure they had to ask her, hey, we got this script where you're a mermaid, which they probably could have done anyway. They didn't have to do that scene where her going real fast, but Bill directed it and said, would you mind if we put a harness on you and pull you in a motorboat real fast? And she said yes. All right, so now in terms of the costumes and the puppets and the sets and all that stuff, just so you understand how this works in Hollywood, these are all separate businesses in Hollywood. For example, let's do costumes. Let's do her fins. They rented that from a costume shop. They called, like on the Henry VIII episode, for example, that we did. They had like 50 costumes they probably had to rent. They don't have those. While they may have their own wardrobe department, they don't have that kind of thing. So there are whole separate businesses that are costume shops. Now, when you are a big studio like Universal or Warner Brothers, you have your own costume shops. And I think I've talked about, that's a split screen. See, between Dick and Liz are there, and they shoot that. And then Liz has to turn into Serena with the camera locked out because the camera can't move to do a split like that. And then they come back and shoot her split screen stuff. And then you can do the close-ups however and whenever you want. That's shot separately. But the split screen is a lot of work, and they didn't do many of them in this whole episode. They just did a lot of stand-in behind the head stump. So anyway, these are separate. That's a split screen, see? And notice how Dick had to walk that way. He couldn't walk that way because he'd walk out of the wipe and it would look like he disappeared. You get it? That's how that split screen stuff works. So the big studios have their own wardrobe departments, but these kind of shows don't. They have to rent that stuff. So they rented that fin from somewhere, and Liz has to put it on. And I'm sure it was super tight. I'm sure it was super uncomfortable. There may be a zipper in the back. I'm guessing there must be, or something. Or it's just so rubbery enough that she can just pull it up. But a lot of times, again, you just take stuff for granted to get in and out of that stuff. Let's say there's not a zipper. You literally would have to lotion up or Vaseline up your legs or something so you can squeeze it on. Things you just don't think of that it takes to do this kind of stuff. It's not watching it, it's like, oh, how did I, but there's sometimes there's just so much that goes into it that you're like, wow, I can't believe they're going through all that. Like the pulling Samantha in the boat. All right, so there it is in the again, to me, real super cheese. They could have gotten a really nice fin with sequins and scales, but they chose to just get this little rubber thing. But it's okay. It's their show. But for me, I like it when it's like believable. Hey, that could really happen. Not really into the campy stuff there. All right, so where are we in the story? So everybody knows now that Bruce turned Serena into a mermaid, and Samantha is going to try to go in between, as she often is, and talk Bruce out of, don't do that. Did you like it when she did it to you and all that stuff? And she's going to say just the right thing to make him switch her back. And I think that happens now, right? Or no? Why is she covering up? Is a mortal coming in? I have watched this. I just forget. And that's the great thing, that I forget these things. All right, so
the former monster.
I think I mentioned that this is all, now we're all back in the studio here. And by the way, have you ever noticed how a lot of the lampshades are, oh yeah, because here comes cousin Bruce, that's why, or cousin Robbie, that's why, and of course Serena thinks he's hot, probably, because she's a big hoe. That's always been the story, right? So she, have you ever noticed how the lampshades are a lot of times are gray like that? I mean, in real life, I don't know that a lot of lampshades are that kind of gray. You have to be very careful about whites and creams and things when you're shooting like that. Those walls that look real cream are darker than they really look, because you get it just screws up. It's called the aperture of the lens. It screws up the lens if things are too bright. And usually, like, he looks like he's in a white suit. That's not a white suit, I guarantee you. And when someone's in a white T-shirt, because I've done it a million times, it's not a white T-shirt on the set. It's like a light gray T-shirt. By the time all the lights hit it and everything, it looks white. So even back here, I think I talked about previously how they're getting more sophisticated with film. That's a stand-in. Color film hasn't been around that long, but it's kind of like our current day computers, as I said last time, where scientists are working to make it better and better and better. Imagine how much film they used and sold, and not only for stuff like this, but people like I love to take 35 millimeter film still pictures, and how fun it was to work with that. And it was always getting better. The ASA from that era, where it was like 84, then it was 100, and then you remember when they came out with 400 ASA, so you could shoot in low light. And so film is getting more and more sophisticated, meaning you can do more with lighting. It doesn't have to be blasted on it like it used to be. So you can add a lot more depth and dimension things, but still, and to this day, even with video, you have to be very careful with whites on a set, because they'll blow out the lens, and it just, you won't see any detail. It'll just blow it out. And by the way, someone asked me this, I think. No African American people here. But in case anybody's watching to do that, okay, he changes their back. A lot of people think, this came up in another episode, that when you're shooting dark skin tone people, they're going to look better if you put them in front of a light background. It's the exact opposite, for the reason that I just said. You want to put them in front of a dark background, because if you put a dark skinned person in front of a light background, you're going to have to open up the lens so much just to get the definition of the dark skin, that the background's going to blow out and it's just going to be bad. So in case you're ever shooting a dark-skinned person, you want to put them in front of a darker background, because they'll look much better and you'll see much more definition. All right, okay, so see where the lake is? That's behind Bernie. And see, he's walking out. You see how little it is? See what I'm talking about? He's like at the edge now. And that's the other edge. It's a very little pond on the Warner Ranch, which is why I said they couldn't have shot that boat thing there, because that's a teeny, teeny, tiny little pond. And even TV's making it look bigger than it is. It's just not that big at all. But when you just shoot the edge like that, all of a sudden it can look big, but it isn't. But as episodes go, these actors were just gung-ho, man. So again, they shot this in July in LA. So it could be in the 90s. I remember I used to work at Disney Studios for a while, a long while. And I remember one day I'm walking through the back lot and I ran into Carol Burnett. This is all a true story. It wasn't the back lot, it was just the stages there. And it was 114 degrees. I just remember those two things went together, 114 degrees in Carol Burnett. So, and see, right now, my hands are under my leg because I'm freezing in this studio. Studios are usually freezing cold. I hate the cold. Whole other story for a different day. But anyway, so they're just doing so many water things there. It's crazy. There's the cheese ball puppet, Bruce. And you see the reflection of the dirt in the background. So that's back in that little teeny pond. So very controlling. Someone is making those waves. I guarantee you someone is sitting there with something on the edge going like this. See those ripples? Because there wouldn't be any ripples like that, because aside from the fact that there's no wind, that's basically just a giant puddle. So they're trying to make it look like it's a big lake. Like Loch Ness, the real Lake Ness, is huge. It's a gigantic lake. And so, but they're just shooting on the Winter Ranch and trying to make it look as much like a lake as they can. And is that the end? That's the end. I have to say my least favorite episode. I also remember we have all the credits here. So Don Knight is Robbie because that's the puppeteer. See, Steve Franken is Bruce. Oh no, Robbie is the cousin. But they actually credit the puppeteer in here who played, which I thought was really interesting. And you're going to see whole Screen Gems things come up. For whatever reason, they're running all this now. An Ashmont production. What does that mean? I just saw that. I got to do some research. What's an Ashmont production? I should know that. I don't know what that means. Anyway, so there you have it. It's my least favorite episode because I don't like the episodes that don't feel real. That's just me. I'd love to know what you think. I'll bet someone out there, there's always someone. No, that's my favorite episode of all time, the Loch Ness one. I'm just curious. And I'm also very curious to think about what you think about the whole braless thing. I'm just curious. That's all. Nothing perverse. I'm just curious if you think it was a good move and if she looked good or if she didn't. So that's it. Thanks again for joining me with Bewitched Chat, where we're all over the map. I appreciate your patience. Again, appreciate your comments. I read every single one of them. Just looking forward to this journey that we take together. So in the meantime, keep the magic alive and in your heart. We'll see you next time. Take care.
I never thought my heart would be happy, but now I'm caught and I'm kinda glad to be